Oh, I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just scared Huxley, poor thing. We have people working on the gutters today around our house, so there might be some banging and clanging, and hopefully we can get through this because I really need to film this today. So if you've been following along here on the channel for the last several weeks, you know that we are in the middle of a home renovation, and we're also living here while we renovate this house. I'm actually coming to you from the future right now. I can look over here and see it's probably a 50% finished kitchen. There's still a good bit to do in there, but we've come a long way. And in the last 2 episodes of this series, I was sharing with you guys how I started building the kitchen cabinets. Well, one of the other really big projects that we have to do in this kitchen is install a kitchen sink, a new kitchen sink. The previous kitchen sink and entire kitchen cabinet situation was in pretty rough shape, so we're replacing everything. And because we're getting a new sink, we need a new plumbing situation under the sink. The original sink was a double well kitchen sink, kind of your standard kitchen sink. We ended up getting a single well, very large kitchen sink with a single drain. So we're going to consolidate everything into that one drain, and we want to add a garbage disposal, which we did not have previously. So we're going to back it way up. We're going to go back several weeks to when we installed the kitchen sink. So the day before we removed our sink and the existing cabinet that the sink is in, I just wanted to prep the cabinet that I built for the new sink. So first I just wiped it down really well with a tack cloth just to get any dust off of it, because this has been sitting out in our sunroom. I used some polyurethane in a semi-gloss finish to paint the interior of this cabinet just to make it a little bit more resistant to water, because this is going to be under the sink. I ended up doing 2 coats of this, sanding between coats to get a nice smooth wipeable finish on the interior. Then Alan started working on removing the old sink. So basically, to remove the old sink, we just had to disconnect the hot and cold water and disconnect the PVC plumbing underneath. We also had to unscrew all the clips that were holding the sink on, and then the sink popped right out. Yes! Oh my gosh. Yay! Okay, where are we taking this thing?
Out the back door.
Okay.
That's nasty.
That is nasty. Oh my God. All right.
That's gross, man.
It felt so good to get this sink out of our kitchen, because the sink, it was just old, it was run down, it was kind of nasty on the sink, and I hated using it. So once we had the sink out, we could get all of the rest of the cabinetry out, and this was the last of the existing cabinets that we had to demolish. Watch out for those nails. Once we had the sink cabinet completely removed, we could start taking out the old plumbing. So this plumbing, like I said, was meant for a double well sink, and it just wasn't going to work at all in the current configuration. So we sawed off the PVC piping, which was actually a little bit nerve-wracking. Then we loosened all of the outlets on this wall and kind of pulled them away from the wall so that I could remove this melamine backsplash, the same way that I did for the other wall that I had finished a few weeks ago. Working on our home renovation and doing almost every part of it ourselves has been a lot of work. And in spite of feeling like I've actually been very active throughout this process, I think it's a good idea for me to make time for moving my bodies in ways that improve my strength, mobility, and overall health. One of the tools that I've been using lately to help me stay motivated and inspired to work out on my own is Trainwell, a personal training fitness app and the sponsor of today's video. Now, while I enjoy working out, one of the biggest challenges for me when it comes to working out is actually starting a workout. And I have found that for myself, working out in a group or with an accountability buddy or with a trainer is the secret to getting me to actually start a workout. And I'm always happier once I do it. I don't know why there's that disconnect there. And I also just want someone to tell me what to do. The thought of having to plan out a workout is really overwhelming for me personally. So having it all planned out for me and having someone to check in with regularly to see how I'm doing is perfect for me. Kayleen is my trainer on Trainwell, and she's tailored my workout specifically to my needs and fitness goals. When I set up my account, I was able to specify the specialties and communication style of the trainer that I'd be paired with. And since I knew that accountability was going to be my biggest barrier to getting a workout in, I wanted someone that would give me a little bit of tough love, but also be fun to work with. The TrainWell system has a lot of flexibility too. I can track and rearrange my workouts with the tap of a button, omit or add exercises by messaging my trainer, and the best part is that I can do the workouts anywhere. I recently took a trip home to visit my family in Mississippi, and I was there for 2 weeks, and I was able to get my workouts in without any problem. I didn't have to worry about my equipment. I didn't have to worry about finding a gym to work out in. I could just work out right there in my parents' backyard. When Kayleen and I had our onboarding call, I also mentioned that I wanted a lot more stretching because I felt so sore from all of these labor-intensive house projects that we're doing. So Kayleen ends all of my workouts with a really nice long stretching routine, and I love it. And you can try TrainWell for free for 14 days with an actual real live personal trainer by using my link in the description below this video. A big thank you to TrainWell for sponsoring today's video and getting me motivated to work out on my own. Okay. Ooh, that came out good. And as you can see, this wall is there's a lot going on here. It's pretty destroyed, and I've mentioned this before, but if I wasn't covering this up, I would probably need to replace the drywall because there's just been a lot of damage to it. But I did want to make sure to get this wall nice and smooth and, clean, reasonably clean, so that I could eventually install new paneling over this wall. Under the hot water line, there was this big gaping hole, and it just kind of bugged me a little bit, so I decided to patch it. I'm actually not going to be putting paneling under the sink. I just didn't feel like it was appropriate to put it there because I didn't want water to potentially get behind it and cause a mold issue. So I am trying to kind of clean up this little bit of wall underneath the sink to make it look a little bit more presentable. And it does look a little bit bubbly here, but this does dry and shrink, so it actually is a lot more flat once it dries. And I also decided to prime the floor, again, the same way I did for the rest of the kitchen. It just makes everything look more monolithic and less scary with all the previous water damage. I also primed the back wall here. This was not totally necessary, but this part that's going to be under the sink will be visible when that sink cabinet is opened up. It made it look a lot better, and it's going to be a little while before I can install the rest of the paneling on this back wall. So I wanted to go ahead and prime it. With this area prepped, I could work on installing the sink cabinet, and I just wanted to make sure that I had it centered on this window in our kitchen. Once I determined the center location for the cabinet, I could measure the location of this pipe, the waste pipe, for our sink. And I just cut a hole in the cabinet bottom to fit over that pipe. I did end up having to enlarge that hole a couple of times just to make sure we had plenty of space to fit the coupling over the PVC that was going to attach to the new piping. In addition to the sink cabinet, I'm also going to be installing the garbage cabinet that goes right next to it because these cabinets share a face frame. So for installation purposes, it just makes sense to install them together. So I'm prepping a piece of plywood to go on the back of this cabinet. I'm also attaching a piece of 1/4-inch plywood to the top back of the sink cabinet. I don't want this to go all the way to the bottom of the cabinet, but I'm putting this here to make it the same depth as the cabinet next to it. So if I didn't put this on, I would push it against the wall and it would be a 1/4-inch too close to the wall because this other cabinet has an extra 1/4-inch on the back of it, if that makes any sense. Then I could start actually installing the cabinet. So I want to make sure that the cabinet is level. I'm going to be using these shims. They're just little strips of wood that I can kind of poke into certain parts where the cabinet meets the floor and the wall to make sure that it's level. So I may have to like lift up the front a little bit. I can just push that little shim under there to give me a little bit of a lift in the front and make it more level front to back. I also made sure to check it side to side, and I did this on both sides. This took a little bit of time for me to get it just so. I mean, I really had to kind of futz around with it for a while to get it just right and also make sure that I kept it centered. Once I was happy with the leveling and the position of the cabinet, I could secure it permanently to the wall. So I wanted to make sure that I'm securing this into studs, and I'm going to be drilling through those little stretcher bars that I put on the back of the cabinets into the stud on the wall, and this is going to be very sturdy and keep everything in place. I can also break off my shims and trim where those didn't break off cleanly with my multi-tool, and I'm screwing this in several locations to the studs. I had some comments previously on a video about whether or not I was going to be adding plywood backing to these. On some of them I am, and on some of them I'm not. But I can assure you these are extremely sturdy, and once they are screwed into the wall, they do not budge, and they hold their shape really well. So now I'm attaching that face frame first to the sink cabinet. I've glued around the perimeter of the front of the cabinet, and then I can go through and screw into the face frame from those pocket holes that I created along the front of the cabinet. I'm also adding a few shims here between the face frame and the front of the cabinet because on this particular cabinet, that stretcher that I put on the front was not perfectly flush with the edge of the cabinet, so there was a little bit of space there. It probably doesn't even matter. It's not going to show, but I did it anyway. Now I can install the cabinet that goes next to the sink cabinet. So I've got that inserted behind the face frame. I'm kind of making sure everything's level. I've got it clamped. I'll do the same thing to level this cabinet, using the shims to kind of shore up some of the areas that are a little bit low, because the cabinets are not perfect. They're pretty good. I have to say, for a beginner, they're pretty good, but it does require some leveling, again, because our floors and our walls are pretty uneven. And I did not use glue on this part of the face frame. It was just kind of awkward to glue it and then slide that in there in an effective way. So I'm not using glue on this part of the face frame, but I think it's probably just fine. When I first screwed this cabinet to the wall, it kind of pulled the cabinet in a way that pulled it out of level. So I did have to unscrew it and stick a shim back there and then re-screw it in so that it would stay level. The countertop is going to cover all of this, but my top priority is just making sure that the cabinets are level. They're pretty good. I also screwed the two cabinets together to make them extra sturdy so that they kind of act as one unit and then they won't fall out of level top to bottom. Just so that we have a temporary countertop until we get our new countertops installed, I'm using this old section of countertop from the old cabinets. So right now I'm just tracing out a hole for the sink and kind of determining where the sink is going to be, and then I will cut this out of this piece of laminate. And now we are ready to replace the plumbing under the sink. So they had these risers installed on the hot and cold connections coming out from the wall. They're not necessary, and they were kind of getting in the way of our garbage disposal. Our garbage disposal just barely fit, and it was kind of touching one of them, and we didn't think that would be a good situation. So we decided to basically go all the way back to the connection at the wall and take out these risers. These things were really difficult to get out. It took two of us. I had to kind of hold the connection at the wall with a wrench while Alan twisted, but we did eventually get them off. And to be able to fully twist them off, we had to saw them off of the connection here. So we're just sawing off that riser just to make it easier to twist it off. Once we had both hot and cold risers removed, we could start working on the new plumbing connection. So we have this coupling here that's threaded on both ends, and this is going to attach to the hot and cold at the wall and then to our new valve for the hot and cold.
Well, like a thread sealant or a...
Oh, what's the name you said for it?
Oh, like pipe dope.
Pipe dope.
I think people just use that term for like everything, you know? Everything's harder on camera.
No. Yeah, I think so. All right, you want me to turn it on?
Yeah.
Oh, we got water. Okay, yep.
So...
It's good. It's not dripping. It's not dripping, and when I turned it on, it had good pressure. I mean, it started spraying out immediately. We also installed this other little T coupling thing, I don't know what it's called, so that we can attach our dishwasher water line to the hot water. And we now have a new valves installed for both the hot and cold water, and it looks so much better. Gosh, it looks so much better down there. Then we put our sink in place so that we could start mapping out the plumbing to the drain of the sink. I thought we just kind of dry fit it first. Dry fit the whole thing, and then once we kind of feel confident about our PVC route. So this was the part of this whole process that made us the most anxious. Installing the new P-trap and drain line and a vent to go back here. But Alan did a lot of research on this, and we also spoke to a really great guy at the Home Depot, Mark, who helped walk us through how to do this. But basically what Alan is doing here is installing the PVC for the new P-trap. So he has this primer and cement that is specifically for PVC that he'll be putting on the piping to hold everything together really nice and watertight. And this stuff gives off a lot of fumes. It is a very intensely odorous product. So we did the rest of the assembly outside just to kind of limit our exposure to this stuff and put together our vent that will attach to the P-trap. And we put all of this assembly together. This is going to go into the floor. We have a vent here at the top, and then this piece will go to our P-trap. So now we just have to install this in the floor vent, or the floor drain. We did end up having to reinstall a new valve for the cold water because when we originally installed it, we figured out that we installed it crooked. And so when we were screwing it in, trying to get it nice and tight, we were basically just stripping the threads. So that's why it looks a little different. Then we were ready to start installing the garbage disposal. So we just followed the instructions that came with the garbage disposal, attaching putty to the drain that goes to the disposal. And it says to put something heavy on top of it, like the actual garbage disposal, but this seemed kind of pointless to me, honestly. It didn't really seem like it did that much. And we actually needed the garbage disposal at some point to install it. I ended up just holding it because one of the things with installing a garbage disposal and this plumber's putty situation is once you get it attached, you don't want to twist it or move it too much because it can break the seal of the plumber's putties.
Got it?
Yep, got it. Just try your best not to twist it. So I was trying to hold it as best I could from the top, while Alan worked on installing some of the attachments that attach from the drain to the garbage disposal.
I think we should try it and just don't twist it, whatever you do, okay? You in? Is it in?
Nice. Babe, we did that. We did that. It's pretty good, actually. Looks pretty freaking good. I'm so proud of us for doing this. Once the garbage disposal was installed, we could work on installing the P-trap. This will connect to the garbage disposal and then to the waste drain line that we installed previously, the one that has the vent on it. Then we installed our temporary countertop on top of the sink and were able to start connecting the faucet. If this were a more permanent countertop installation, we would be caulking around the sink perimeter just to make it watertight, but we didn't do that since we're going to be removing this in a few weeks. All right, last thing to do is to hook up the water. Cold. Oh,
What happened?
it just made a noise. All right, one's on. Should do the other one.
Try it.
Oh my gosh. All right, should we try the sink? Here we go.
Oh man.
Look what we did.
Oh wow.
How are we looking down there? I think we did it.
You know, despite the fact that we're probably flooding the basement right now, this feels really good.
This does feel good. This might be, I feel like this is like the biggest project that we've done so far, as far as like technical.
I would say it's the most involved.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh. Installing this sink felt like such an accomplishment. We were so pleased with ourselves, and I actually didn't catch this on camera. I turned the camera off before this, but after we finished it and we got everything installed and we were sure that there were no leaks, we literally were like hugging and high-fiving and like cheering ourselves on. We were so impressed and so pleased to have it done, and it was such a relief to have it done too, because that was a very daunting project that we had coming up. And we're learning everything as we go, like literally everything. We're Googling it, we're YouTubing it, and figuring out on our own. Also, major shout out to Mark at the Home Depot here in the town that we are close to. I'm not going to tell you where it is, but shout out to Mark because he helped us out so much with this plumbing situation. Alan had done a lot of the research for how to install the plumbing. One of the gutter guys is walking by. This is awkward. Alan had done most of the research for how to install the new plumbing in the kitchen sink, but it was something that he had never done before. I certainly had never done it before, so it felt really daunting. But we talked to Mark at the Home Depot, who apparently used to be a plumber and was a licensed plumber, and literally just laid everything out for us, gave us a diagram for how to put the plumbing together. It was so helpful, and it just really kind of bolstered our confidence a little bit so that we could come home and do this, and we did it. I'm going to be working on house projects indefinitely on this channel. Eventually, I will probably get back to some sewing content, and I think the future of this channel is going to be a little bit more of a general making and DIY channel. There are so many things that I've been learning throughout this process, and it is making me more confident to tackle bigger projects. So I think for both of us, it's actually been a huge confidence builder. It's been a morale booster, and it's really made us feel in control of the home that we are living in. We've been renting for so long. Not that there's anything wrong with renting, but it was just really hard for us to feel enthusiastic about updating and decorating the homes that we were renting before because they weren't ours. You know, we didn't feel like we had as much creative freedom. So now we are just like, we're just going for it and it feels good. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. If you enjoyed this video, if you like this series, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon. That way you'll be notified when I release new videos in the future. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.